So if you're an Illuvium landowner or you plan to buy a plot soon, this video is for you because your land just gained some value. And even if you're a staker of ILV, this affects you too, so I'd stick around and learn what all this is about. And what are we talking about here? IIP 45. The R stands for it was revised. This is for land revenue share. This is an IIP that I put through myself. I started this back in December, so it took a little while to get through. When it first got to the IMC, they voted to revise it. They gave me some suggestions. We revised it, finally went back to the IMC, and was passed unanimously. So as you can see here, as of February 24th, there was 5 approvals from the IMC. So the simple summary says, IIP 20 outlines a system where landowners in Illuvium can convert in-game generated fuels into ETH, enabling them to receive an estimated 5% of the total revenue from in-game purchases. This proposal aims to refine and establish clear guidelines regarding how landowners can consistently earn 5% revenue share from in-game transactions. So right away, it's referencing IIP 20. So let's take a quick look at what IIP 20 was talking about. So right here, for revenue distribution, landowners have the opportunity to earn revenue from players in the main game through a novel use of the Balancer token weighted pool. Now this Balancer multi-token weighted pool is already been updated in another ICCP. So this is already a little different. But continuing on, they will be swapping fuels they generated in-game for ETH. On the other side, players in Illuvium will exchange ETH for fuel and use it to complete all in-game transactions in the game except for trading between players. The target will be for the landowners to earn approximately 5% of the total revenue generated from in-game purchases in Illuvium. Now, to be clear, the reason why I wrote up this IIP in the first place is not because I was trying to change anything. It's because I felt like there needed to be more clarification on what this was currently saying, because this was put out over 2 years ago, and as Illuvium developed, some things have changed. So what I was looking at here was the line right here that says players in Illuvium will exchange ETH for fuel and use it to complete all transactions in the game. So I interpreted this as Illuvium landowners were entitled to 5% of all in-game transactions, and all in-game transactions should be designed to be paid in fuel. Now with new parts of the ecosystem like Illuvium Beyond, we can see that there are in-game transactions that are not using fuel. So I wanted to make sure there was a way for the landowners to still get that 5% that I believe was promised in this original IIP. So back to the one that just got passed. For the overview, it says landowners are entitled to 5% of the total revenue generated from digital product sales within the Illuvium gaming ecosystem. This is in line with the guidelines established in ICCP 3. So we are changing the wording a little bit here. Instead of using in-game purchases, we're using digital product sales. The revenue share applies only to a digital product, including any virtual assets or services that can be acquired, owned, or used within the Illuvium gaming ecosystem. The revenue share excludes sales of physical goods, so from the merch store, services, fees generated from exchange, so that would be on the Illuvidex secondary market, and similar non-digital transactions. Currency considerations, purchases in fuel directly contribute to the landowner's revenue share. So basically this is saying that anything that is going to actually use fuel is really unaffected by this IIP, because that's originally how it's supposed to work. This IIP is going to affect the digital product sales that are not being purchased in fuel. So purchases in other currencies, excluding SILV2 or equivalent, are used to buy fuel at market value. So obviously we're excluding SILV2 here because when SILV2 is used in the game, it's just burnt. It doesn't actually go through the fuel exchange. Nobody benefits any revenue distribution from that, not the ILV stakers or the landowners. But SILV2 is of a limited supply, and eventually, in theory, it will run out. And we'll touch on the buying back fuel in a minute. So there's actually 2 scenarios here. There's the pre-fuel production scenario and the post-fuel production scenario. Pre-fuel production, basically where we are now, before our Illuvium land is actually producing fuel that we can sell to the market. The distribution to landowners will be initiated once the cumulative funds of distribution surpass the value of 500,000 USD, or when fuel production starts, whichever occurs first. You might be thinking 500,000 USD is a lot, and it was designed to be a lot because the goal is that fuel production starts before we hit that, and then essentially this airdrop only has to happen once instead of multiple times. And this distribution is determined by the base production capacity of these tiers. So as you can see, a tier 1 is going to have 4 times the fuel production as a tier 1, so it's going to get 4 times the units of distribution in this airdrop. The distribution method, the funds will be airdropped directly to the wallets of the landowners once the distribution is triggered. Okay, so this is likely going to happen once, and we're not going to have to worry about this again. Once fuel gets started, this is what's going to be going on for the long term. So post-fuel production. Following the commencement of fuel production, a fuel buyback system will be activated to manage transactions made with currencies other than fuel. The fuel buyback process. All in-game purchases using currency other than fuel will be triggered by the buyback mechanism. Again, this is excluding SILV2. The equivalent value of these purchases, they'll be used to buy fuel from the market at its current value. The handling of minted fuel. The fuel acquired through the buyback system minted by the DAO will subsequently be removed from circulation, aka burnt. So basically what this is saying is that if there is an in-game transaction that's not using fuel, 5% of that is actually taken out and used to buy fuel off of the market. So instead of being airdropped to your land just based on the land tier you have, this also means that if you're playing your land and you're efficient and you're a better player, you can actually earn a larger portion of that 5% share. So let's take, for example, Illuvium Beyond. Say there's $100 spent on discs, which is a digital product in Illuvium. $5 of that is going to be used to buy fuel on the open market, which would then give the landowners their 5%. Now, another thing that this touches on that isn't made clear here, but I want to bring it up, is the idea of having a rail system with fuel. I've talked about this a lot, and I've been against rails, but this solves part of the issue that I had with rails. So in this situation, let's say we have a rail set at $2 per krypton. If the demand goes above that, the DAO just mints unlimited fuel. But when we get to that point where the DAO is minting unlimited fuel, 5% of that is still going to be going back to the landowners. So how it would likely happen is that 5% is held until fuel drops below the rails, and then that 5% goes back to the fuel buyback system, ensuring that unlimited fuel that's printed by the DAO still allows the landowners to get their 5%. I have other issues with a rail system, but this solves one of the bigger issues I had. And finally, the rationale. This proposal establishes a transparent revenue sharing mechanism, ensuring landowners receive a 5% share from digital product sales. This promotes trust among landowners and reinforces the value of land ownership. It includes revenue from current and future Illuvium game titles. Now that last line right there, I think is the most important in this entire proposal, where it says includes revenues from current and future Illuvium game titles. Before this proposal was passed, it would mean that if Illuvium came out with a new game, a kart racing, a first-person shooter, any new game, and they decided not to use fuel, then the landowners wouldn't be getting that 5% of those in-game purchases. But this ensures any future game that Illuvium comes up with, landowners are still going to get that 5% of those digital sales. So I feel like this kind of went under the radar, and a lot of people didn't even realize what this meant in the first place. I don't expect land prices to start jumping up from here, but this makes me feel a lot more confident with holding my land long term, because I know when Illuvium has, 7, 8, 10 different titles, as a landowner, I'm still going to be getting a share of that 5% for everything in that ecosystem. I hope this helps explain what this IIP does. It took a little while to get this all through, drafted up the correct way for it to get passed. Now I'm ready to start moving on to something different. But before I sign off, I just want to ask one quick favor of you. Subscribe if you're not already. An Illuvium link down below. Just click it. Even if you're already in Illuvium, it helps me out for the creator program. And definitely helps motivate me to keep making more content like this. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.